Do you believe psychedelics have the potential to help Black and Indigenous people reconnect with ancestral wisdom and long suppressed spiritual technologies?
Yeah, I'll say that yoga is a long suppressed spiritual technology that oftentimes you don't really know you need unless you have an experience that makes it make sense. It's hard when you have social media at the touch of a button to compare to sitting and what seems like you're doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? You're getting these constant dopamine fixes. You're feeling like, you're making real progress, maybe in your career. It quote unquote offers you a lot, right? So it seems. And then when you think about things like meditating and stillness, you're not really sure of what the immediate effects of that are. And so working with psychedelics can help it make more sense for you. I think for me, a direct example of it was I was able to see that the things that I really wanted were not sustainable in the way that I was just going about them. Like going towards,
I know what you're saying, but elaborated on it more for those listening.
yeah, I think like for a person who was building a brand and things like that on social media, I was seeing how, yes, it's great to do these things and to collaborate and to connect with community. But when community actually gets in front of you, knowing what to do with it is super important. And if you do not have tools, then you won't know how to keep the community together. You'll pull it towards you, but you won't really know how to sustain it. And so yoga for me is all about sustainability at its core, and that's why it's an ancient tradition. That's why it's ancient and still very prevalent to this day. Something that's thousands and thousands of years old is still being used to this day because it is sustainable. And people know that. And those who are still carrying on this practice to this day can show you how it's done. And it can become a tool in your tool belt. And tools are what keeps community together. Social media is not something that has been around enough to know if it even has the potentiality to sustain something for so long. So we have to respect the practices that have been here for a very long time and make sure that we're utilizing those just as much as the things that are new to our awareness.
You mentioned social media, right? And I think one of the biggest issues people have is that because they're overstimulated, they're kind of conditioned not to be quiet, but they have a deep fear of being quiet. Like I really see it. People are terrified of just sitting with themselves. And what I learned in my short life is that most people know the least amount about the person they spend the most time with, which is themselves, But you learn the most about yourself sitting in silence.
Yeah, yeah. That's very interesting. The silence journey is inescapable if you are on a growth journey. Like silence is the very thing that is going to bridge you to a heightened perception and just more clarity overall. And one of the things that, even going back to that experience that I was talking to you about that happened last year where I was able to hear the voices of my ancestors, it came from me going into the journey with a listening practice. I was listening. I was just sitting and listening. I was at a creek. I was listening to the water. And in the process of listening, I was offered something, you know? So yeah, silence is truly inescapable. And as you continue to journey with it, you'll realize just how invaluable it is.
And what advice would you give someone who's trying to start the journey of being silent, whether it's for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes?
My dad used to do this practice when I was younger. He used to do vows of silence, and He wouldn't say anything for like an entire week at a time. He'd completely go into observation mode. And what I realized that would happen to him when he would come out of these spaces is that he would be able to discern what the family needed. So if you're trying to go on this journey, I think that offering your listening ear in spaces where you wouldn't normally would be a great start.